Hello friends, this is Scott, and this is how my home in Salt Lake City looked when I came back from my Snowmageddon video, where I had 4 feet of snow and still do down at my hobby farm. But this is how much snow I had from the last big storm we had, and it's mostly all melted, and which has now uncovered the damage from some of the windstorms we've had. I've still got some tree limbs down I've got to clean up, and it also uncovers my backyard garden. And I can see all the work that I didn't quite get to. I never put this garden to bed. So here's a quick look at my garlic bed that I planted. And I did plant it late, and I was successful in not having any of them sprout. So we'll see how the crop does as they sprout in the spring. Got Mr. Lincoln with me. He missed me on my trip. He didn't go with me this last trip. And as I come on down the garden, I see lots of stuff that I've got to clean up. I've got lots of sunflowers. I've got some tree limbs down. I'm going to check out my fire pit because that's an important component when I decide I'm going to clean up the backyard. I got to have a fire, and so I got some wet coals in here that I need to clean out so I can get a good fire going. And the pond is overgrown with the bamboo, it looks like, but it's unthawed. Chickens are out enjoying the yard, enjoying all the insects. The weather was high 30s, I think, on this day, so. It was a beautiful day to be outside. There wasn't any breeze or very little breeze, and it was just nice. But the chickens, they do a good job collecting all the spent seed and the weed seeds and the good and the bad bugs. But sometimes when there's just too many leaves on the ground, they just don't do a very good job getting down to all the bad insects that I need them to take care of. So now here is the seed from my hanging cedars that are hanging 20 feet in the air, which I'll show you right here, right off our deck. So the wind's been blowing and we're wasting a lot of seed. And I have thistle seed and I have regular wild bird mix. And the thistle seed, I'm a little worried about it sprouting throughout the yard. But I want the chickens out because I want them to help me with this seed. I want them to eat it all up. And I don't know if they found it yet. I just barely let them out. And you see there's lots of leaves. These are from flowering pear trees in the back, the 4 I have. And the leaves fell very late. And then the snow came, and I haven't had a chance to do any cleanup. So it's all my time down at the hobby farm. But as you see, these leaves are really matted down. I like the ground covered. I don't mind leaves. It's just great for worms and everything else. But the chickens aren't going to do a good job digging through this if I don't loosen it up a little bit. So I'm coming over here by my compost bin, and you can see the chickens have made it all the way over here. They always find the warmest, moistest soil, and they go to town on finding the worms. Now there's the compost bin full of worms, but it's not insulated. Thought I caught my wife throwing plastic in the compost bin, but that is some kind of it feels like a cardboard type material, so she gets a pass on that one. And the grapes need to be pruned, as well as the blackberries as we're swinging around. And when I'm out here, the chickens are following me, and they're hoping I uncover some more nature's goodness for them when I'm out here working. So I'll have a little work crew with me, and they'll eat up, hopefully, a lot of what I uncover. But got lots of just miscellaneous stuff. You see all the beds. There's the fairy garden that I built last year for my wife. Need to clean that up. There's the Egyptian walking onions. They're still hanging in there. They are a perennial crop. And you see the other beds down there that I built last year with the wall block. And I've got my potato bins that I did harvest late, but I never put them away, as well as a few tomato cages. And these are leeks. I still have a few leeks that have survived the winter up to this point. So again, it's mid-January, and there's still some things alive in the garden. But mostly I just need to spend some time and enjoy my backyard and get it cleaned up. And the chickens will be, like I say, they're going to be my little work crew today, and we're going to see how much we can get accomplished. Being the middle of winter, my intention today is not to get this yard in super clean condition. I just want to make it a little bit better, make my wife a little happier. I'm going to leave the chickens out for several more months. I want them to enjoy the yard and go through it until it's time to start gardening again, at which time they'll be put away. So I like to give them this time of the year when it's cold and boring, and I like to let them out of the coop and let them have some exercise and keep themselves occupied in the winter months. And when it's really cold, they just stay in the coop. They don't come out. But on days like today, they love it, and they're just out all day throughout the yard. Do have to watch out for a few aerial predators occasionally, but haven't had any chickens taken by any hawks up to this point. So Had other animals take them, but and humans, but not the bird kind. They've tried, but they haven't been successful. So, but we've got cleanup to do, and I want to make it look a little bit better. And this bamboo definitely needs to be trimmed back. And like with everything in my garden, I'm always going to recycle. And that bamboo will be plant stakes that I'll take down to the hobby farm. And Mr. Lincoln is walking me over to the chicken coop, and as we're passing the pond here, I've got lots of tree stakes that I'll be taking down, or plant stakes, I should say. So when there's a problem in one area, you have a solution in another, and they're very useful, and I'll use a lot down there. The pond is unfrozen. It just has a little bit of ice skimming the surface. As you'll see, I put my foot through it thinking it was a little bit thicker than it was, but it wasn't anything. It's just barely the top. You see my nice moon boots there. My friends make fun of me, but I think they're cool. And the young people seem to like them, so they're my new favorite comfortable boot in the winter. But there's some tree limbs that are down, and I need to take care of those. And we're going to take a look at the coop here and see what kind of mess we have in the coop and how much, if that's a priority to clean it today or not. But usually I have a ton of leaves and I have other, straw and hay in here, and I don't have any of that. So I'm really behind. I've not, got my next year's compost going in the chicken yard either, because the chickens do a great job shredding material, and I'll give them some today as I'm cleaning. But I wish this was totally full, so that they could be adding manure and scratching through it and keeping them occupied with that also. But, well, I've got to bring some raw materials in here, and I have them. So let's take a look inside the coop and see how bad it is. I haven't been paying much attention. So I've only got 6 chickens now, and it's not terrible. There's a little bit of poop buildup, but that's, when it's cold, the bacteria isn't activated too well, so it'll be fine. I'll put some wood shavings in there in the near future. This side's not too bad either. A little bit of manure buildup, but look at the nest box, and what is that thing? I have not seen, what is that? It has been months since I've seen anything that resembled an egg, and oh my gosh, there's the first one of the year, I think. That is the first one of the year. I've not had any eggs for like 2 months, so it's pretty crazy that they've totally shut down. But now looking at my wood supply, I still got a few rounds to chop up, but I've been doing a little burning this year. And I want to take that rack there on the right with the little sticks. I want to take that down to the hobby farm, and I can expand it with 2x4s and have some wood storage down there. So the first step I got to do before I get started is I got to get my wood fire going in my fire pit. And I got to get this cleaned out, but it is wet and moist, and so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge today to get the fire going. So I'm just using my best tool, my foot here, to try to kick out some of the ashes, but it's really moist. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to get this fire going and to keep it going. But once it gets going with all the sticks and the debris that I'm going to burn today, it'll burn hot. So once I have it started, that's the whole battle. So bring it back to the patio, and as you see, I've got sticks to cut up and miscellaneous, but I'll get this fire pit going. First, I got to make some kindling. And I saw a neat video the other day where somebody put a bunch of logs in a tire, and they were able to chop up the wood without having the wood falling all over the place and having to stoop down and pick it up. So the tire thing may be a good idea. I gave away all my tires down at the hobby farm, so I don't, other than the big ones down there, but that might be a good idea, just so I don't have to always be bending over and picking up every time I take a swing. So I'm going to add a lot of little sticks in the bottom of this. I've got cardboard underneath, and I did bring a lint fire starter that I made out of a toilet roll and just stuffed it with our lint from our dryer. That stuff's really flammable, and that's why you got to clean your ducts. It's definitely a fire hazard if you have buildup in your ducting. But it burns really well and gets a good start to the fire. So I just took a couple garbage bags and little sticks to a little bit bigger sticks. And then hopefully a few bigger sticks on top, and it'll catch. If not, I'll be trying to scrounge up some more cardboard and give it another chance, because, again, the wetness and the moisture may be a problem today. But we'll see. We'll see how this starts and how it lights. Well, I got it going, and I had to go get some more cardboard because the bottom was so moist. But we got her permanently going here with another sack or two of grocery sacks tore up. But starting out, I'm just going to pull some of these sunflowers. I want to burn everything that's dried, as dry as it is. I'm going to try to burn it. Now, none of this stuff is totally dry, so it's going to cause some smoke, as you can see. And I got smoked myself out a few times, and I'm sure the neighbors weren't real pleased with me at times. But I like to burn the bigger, woodier stuff. It's harder to get rid of. Again, I'll want all my raw materials reused in the yard. I mean, we do have an open system, which means that everything that we eat and we flush down the toilet is going bye-bye. It doesn't get added back to the soil. So we always have to re-add materials like compost and leaves and try to reuse as much in our garden as we can. Now here I'm carrying my earth boxes, and I never got a chance to clean those up, so I'm taking them down and I'm dumping them out into the chicken yard. There's some worms and things in there that they'll dig through and find, as well as plant roots and weed seeds and whatever else was in there. So I'll get those dumped out, and I'm not going to spray them out right now. I'll clean those up in the spring, but I want to get them so that the chickens have something to work through also when they're in their pen. Now, I happened to mention to my wife the other day that maybe I could take the chicken coop down to the hobby farm, which would take a crane to lift it, or I'd have to cut it up into pieces. And she kind of liked that idea, so I put a spark in her brain that I don't know if she's going to forget. So I got to figure out whether I'm going to keep this coop here, or I'm going to take it down there. It's going to be a pain to move, but it's a free coop if I can get it down there. Free being the materials that it's already exist, and the cost of moving it won't be free. But so we'll see if that coop ends up going down south, or if it stays here. I kind of like it here. I usually like to raise chickens in when I'm always going to be around, especially if they're young, because you got to really keep an eye on them when you're buying chicks or you're buying pullets. You can't be gone for days, and I'm a little worried about that. If I was to start raising birds down at the hobby farm and not being there all the time, that could be problematic. So got a little thinking to do, but I've got some months to worry about it. I can't get in the back pasture anyway for probably a couple months. We'll see how long the snow lasts. But so after I got that thought about, I started to rake. And I first bucket, as I decided, of wet leaves. I had already put leaves on this garlic bed once, but they were dry and they just blew around. So these are wet leaves. So hopefully these will stay on the bed, and they'll keep the ground mulched throughout the rest of the winter. Again, this is an experiment, planting the garlic so late. I usually have garlic that's 10, 12 inches tall, sticking up, just waiting for the warm weather to come back, but not this year. So we'll see how that affects the harvest. I did plant a bunch at the hobby farm also, so we'll have garlic, but we'll see what's better, planting it earlier, letting it grow, or having it stay dormant and then start growing in the spring. But it got leaves from all the different trees, and I'm trying not to rake up all the bark because, again, I do the back Eden garden method, which is wood chips. And as you can see throughout this video, my wood chip supply is dwindling because they've been eaten up by the soil life. So that's a good thing. It's creating healthier soil. But I've got to add a bunch more wood chips into my own garden next year. The big pile of wood chips I had in the front ended up going to the hobby farm and the school garden, and very little was used in my own yard. So I've got to find another truckload of wood chips when it gets warm again. I don't want them dumped in my driveway in the winter because I need places to park cars with snow and snow plowing, and so it's not really an option right now to try to find some wood chips, so I'll have to wait. But here I'm pulling some of the sticks that got blown down or knocked down with the snow and the wind we've had. And I'm going through and I'm just deadheading all the perennial flowers. I'm more of a perennial guy than an annual flower guy. So all I do is I just go through and I just top it, get rid of all the dead growth, and then I'll bring extra wood chips in here and just keep adding them to the soil as time goes by. And the soil is getting better. I've noticed the increase in productivity already in certain areas of the garden where the wood chips have been added consistently for a couple of years. But I need to bring several truckloads of wood chips in here, and just from my home garden, as well as I need tons down at the hobby farm. And again, the school garden, I'm going to need another bunch for that too. So I've got a lot of planning to do as I'm doing a lot of thinking as I'm raking here, and of what all I want to accomplish here as I transition to most of the food production down at the hobby farm. Wife wants more flowers here and make this yard look a little bit cleaner and nicer. So I've got to worry. I've got to figure that out. But haven't even emptied my water barrel, my rain barrel, and it was frozen pretty solid. But now it's thawed out because the weather up here was fairly nice last week. As I'm narrating this, it's in the teens, so it's definitely not warm outside. It's got a good chill in the air now, but But I'm glad that the weather broke and that the snow melted, so I was able to get out and at least clean up the yard somewhat. And these are roses. These are climbing roses, and I love to prune the climbing roses when I have a fire going too, because roses, as y'all know, are so prickly that they're no fun to cut up and to handle and to throw away. And you can't mulch them or compost them because you'll just end up with thorns all the time. So I just burn these. They're a little green. Yeah, that's okay. Smoke the neighbors out a little bit, but it's the best way to get rid of them is just to burn them up, and then you don't have to worry about all those thorns. But today was just kind of a relaxing day, enjoying the fire and doing a lot of raking, a lot of trimming, and just burning all the miscellaneous brown stuff and semi-green stuff, and just trying to get rid of it. Again, I don't want this to, I should say I don't want it. I'm not going to get this yard completely done today. It doesn't need to be. It just needs to be a little bit in better condition so that we can enjoy the yard and not have it be such an eyesore this time of the year. The yard's always messy until I get going in the spring with the gardening projects and put the chickens away. But for now, it'll be okay. And I'm raking up all the seeds that are here, and I'm going to throw those in the pen so the chickens can enjoy those. I'm going to have weeds, germinate. I'm going to have a lot of, and these are all annuals. There's wheat and corn and miscellaneous in here. So we'll have, we're going to have some weed seeds. But the thistle I'm more worried about because that stuff's nasty, and if you let it grow and you don't stay on top of it, it can be a real pain in the butt, especially around all these paver patios I have. If the roots get established, I'm going to be ripping up pavers. But just lots of leaves, and I just want to get it loosened up so that these chickens can get through them. Now, I usually have double this amount of chickens. They're getting a little older, and I've lost some over the last year, so I'm about half capacity of what I usually am. And so I need to raise some more chickens, but I've got to time that too and figure out how I'm going to do it, because all that snow down at the hobby farm has really made me nervous that if I don't have the equipment to move snow, I'm not going to be able to adequately take care of animals down there. So I may slow down my purchase of some more animals, but we'll have to see how kind of things go. I've got so much yard work to do, or so much gardening work down at the hobby farm, reclaiming that still that I don't know how much time I'm going to have to take care of animals and raise especially a new breed of chickens or a new crop of chickens. So we'll see. I'll probably end up doing it, but I'm kind of wondering if that's a good idea this year or not, or if I should just work on infrastructure, get the inside of the house all finished up, at least as far as I want to get it done this year, and then get back outside when the weather breaks and get the hobby farm all cleaned up again. But again, when I'm gone so much, this yard gets neglected, but it's it's not that hard to put back together. A couple days and I've got it looking good again. There's some roses getting burned, but here's the chickens as I'm loosening up the leaves. They're doing their job, and you see how far that soil sunk just in one season. And that was a bed I built last year, and so I got to top that bed off with some new compost. But the chickens are also, again, they're going through and they're making a mess on the patio a little bit with their poop, but they're eating up the seeds. So and the seed will keep getting spilled because I'm going to keep feeding the little birds all through the winter. So I need the birds out to eat those seeds. But sunflowers, once you feed wild sunflower, black oil sunflower mix you get at the store, you'll have the birds plant them everywhere. So once you feed sunflower seeds, just know you're going to have them forever. And once they reproduce and they create their own seed, you're gonna the birds get them and they blow away in the breeze, and you just have sunflowers popping up everywhere. But if you want to pull them out early, it's not a big deal. But when you let them grow to a good size, the root structure gets fairly significant. But these aren't too big, so it's not a big deal. But again, there's lots of leaves, and the leaves on this side I'm going to use. I'm going to put some in the chicken coop, and I'm going to use some in the compost bin because I really need to insulate that compost bin. Don't have enough in there to keep the worms alive. And people ask if redworms will live through the winter, and I've only bought them once, and I've had them for probably 20 years, and they do live through the winter if you insulate them. But there's the sticks and the other brown debris that I'm going to burn today, and I'm just collecting it. And again, this fire gets hot, and after I didn't show myself cutting up all the branches. That's boring, but I just have some bigger sticks that I'll cut up and let them dry before I burn them. But I'm going to burn all the smaller twigs and all that stuff, so I'll get all that burned up and cleaned up. And it's funny how my dog's afraid of fire, but chickens aren't afraid of fire. So I guess when they get close to becoming fried chicken, they're really not that scared, I guess. But These are mostly barnavelders there. Those are 3 barnavelders. Now, these are my potato bins, and these are just plastic, and they have little ties or zip ties that I use to put them in rounds and plant the potatoes in there. So I cleaned those up, and here's some speed clipping of the bamboo. Again, I'm saving all this bamboo, and I'll cut off all the excess growth, but I'll take the stems down to the hobby farm and use them for plant stakes. And here I'm getting closer to getting done, getting the last few cut up. And I'm hoping they don't grow up under the pond and puncture the pond, but we'll see how that goes. But again, more leaves, and just this is all going to turn into black gold, so I want all of it. But I'm just going to clean up as much as I can until I get tired today, and then we'll worry about the rest. And here this spout goes to insulate the worms, so keep them alive for sure throughout the winter. And the pond is looking a lot better now that the bamboo is cut back. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video of me getting outside actually and doing something other than painting. But we'll be starting seeds and doing some fun outdoor projects in the very near future. So stay tuned. We're going to have a very busy year this year. Thanks for watching.